7 days living at sea, on a trip where things didn't really go as planned, led us to a unique place that has been off limits for over 15 years. A fishy area ruled by locals that has giant blue water monsters. A rough trip with ups and downs for one special fish.
First day this morning, I arrived yesterday from Dubai. We're here in Zanzibar on the southern tip. So Latham is this very preserved place. It's a bird island, full of birds that are nesting there, different species. It's extremely wild and preserved. And on the southern part, this is where the doggy normally are.
We had been here last year on a trip that was special for so many different reasons. Perfect weather, good fishing, and some incredible wildlife encounters. But unfortunately, we lost the fish of the trip. A giant doggy that took the whole system down, never to be seen again. The search is never ending in spearfishing. So we were very excited to put some time out there again, looking for something special.
We're getting ready to go to the boat, and it's a bit of a mission with the low tide, so it's going to be a fun experience. We're going to take this golf cart as far as we can go, and then we're going to walk down a beach, and then we're going to go through some military style rocks and dragons attacking us, and then if we make it through, we'll be on the boat. We're off to Latham, so we've got about a 40 nautical mile ride southeast. Conditions expected to be about maybe 14 knots and a bit of swell. Hopefully it's going to be a good day and there's going to be nice water when we get there. And we'll just have to see when we get there.
Less than ideal conditions, but we made our way back to this legendary place. This would be our shaky home for the next 7 days. But not just yet. We needed to go find dinner first.
Super nice and blue water. There's a lot of bird activity. We've seen quite a few feeds, so likely yellowfin. So it's promising. Let's see how it goes. This is going to be our first drift, and hopefully set the tone for the rest of the trip.
We jumped on the western side, on the classic reef to deep water drift. This place changes every day, which makes for a fun diving and always a good bet to get the trip started. With the current pushing us along the drop-off, the expectations were high. Even though experience taught us many times before, it is better to manage them properly. The bait was there, the viz was decent, and everything looked good for a great day of diving, but it ended up being quite a slow afternoon, with a few uneventful drifts that eventually produced our one catch of the day. With a perfect eating size wahoo, it was time to go back to the boat and meet our chefs.
My name is Alteshachaya Rashdin Fani. That's my full name. But you can shorten it Alpha, better. You have some fried fish, kingfish, fry, and some olive oil.
Is it fresh?
Yeah.
Fresh fish.
Think
so?
Yeah, fresh.
We do get spoiled on most of our trips, but even on these slower days, you can get so much out of one average size fish.
It's super good. It's really an amazing fish.
We enjoyed dinner and went for an early night. It never gets old, waking up in the middle of the ocean. And it is different when it's rough. We woke up a bit tired from a bumpy night to 20 knots of wind and quite a bit of swell. With these conditions, something as simple as getting out of the boat can become an interesting challenge.
A big whale!
So it's a beautiful morning, there's less wind, the sea is a lot calmer. We are way out on the west side of the island, trying to look for yellowfin. And I will be testing today my new wetsuit with a very special device. Look at it. What is that? All right, guys.
Everyone was in good spirits, and we were now back to the reef. However, other than the usual suspects, there were really no signs of big fish around. Latham and many other places can be like this. You can experience some of the most incredible fishing days, but it can also be very tough, with hours and hours floating in the blue, where just securing dinner can become a challenge. So once again, we adjusted our plan on what were 2 very slow days. Eric did his part, shooting some big rainbows and just hoping to bring some doggies in. But other than this small fish and a curious silver tip, nothing really swam by. This is a side of the sport that rarely gets told, but one you cannot avoid. If you spend enough time out there, you will face slow days, when no matter what you do, how you adjust, the fish you're looking for simply will not come by. And your only option is to keep pushing, drift after drift. It's all a matter of perspective though. You can choose to focus on the outcome and get frustrated, or you can deal with it and try to find joy in the journey and the little things. Like the great food, for example, which was the standout of these days.
Tuna.
It's pretty impressive how average catches can make for some very epic meals.
We just cook a Yahoo kebab barbecue, but homemade style. We don't have a grill, so we are improvising.
Good job, guys.
So this one is a wahoo. It looks very similar to the kingfish.
Okay.
Similar.
But it's not a kingfish.
Yeah.
With the action being quite slow in Latham, we decided to adjust our plan. We would try one more time for tuna, and then we would go back to shore, where we would check a very special place that would change the course of this trip. But first, we would go one last time. We set up a long drift in the western drop-off, and it didn't take long for the small tuna to finally show up. A couple small guys came first, and then a big one swam by. But he didn't stay, so we focused our attention in this 40 kilos fish that was hungry, but quite smart. When the fish is eating the chum, we are usually patient, but there are times when the fish will only eat a few pieces and then swim away. Like it had just happened So Patrice took his time and then risked a very long, yet good holding shot. 4 days of intense diving to generate one opportunity had a fish that we would have likely not even shoot on most of our trips here. Yet, under these circumstances, this capture had a special meaning.
Yeah, I was a big fight. I went water skiing for a while, tried to hold, and I had to give a second shot, and still won't die. And even on the surface, he was still alive. I mean, these fish never die, so it's you have to be very careful, actually.
With this awesome fish finally on the boat, we would then sail back to Zanzibar, where we would stay land-based and enjoy our catch with a different approach. This time prepared by Samish, our new chef.
It's fresh food from the ocean. This is a tuna. Our guest brought this one. Favorite way of eating tuna is, of course, carpaccio.
With our fresh-caught tuna quickly prepared, we went for an early dinner and off to bed, as the next day would bring us to a very special place.
So today we've got something really special for Patrice. We've been back from Latham. It's been a bit rough, and we figured we'd try something different, close to shore, just off Zanzibar. We've got a secret spot that's almost a forbidden place, and it's super fishy. We've seen big fish. We in fact landed some amazing fish there in the past, but it requires the local community to authorize us. So we had a meeting with the local community yesterday, and they authorized us to go. So we're going to give it a go today, and I really hope that we get into some good fish and find that forbidden fruit on this forbidden place.
I had been hearing about this place since I met Eric, which is now over 7 years. A special drop-off, very close to shore, but completely untouched by spearfishing, where only a few locals fish with handlines. They keep the place from anyone outside the village, so it was a huge blessing to have the opportunity to dive there. An afternoon that had started warm and sunny suddenly became dark and rainy, making the environment so eerie. A suiting setting for those looking to take on what might be the most challenging species in spearfishing. We ended up getting on the reef a bit too early, a mostly flat area with not too much around. Eric pulled the trigger on the rainbow, and that quickly showed the potential of the place. Lots of life swimming around the rainbow, but nothing else came up. With the sun getting lower and lower, we knew we had time for maybe 1 or 2 more drifts. This time, Eric pulled the trigger on a small doggy, hoping it would bring something in. By now, it was so dark. Patrice took his time and went into the murky layer, hoping to cross paths with the monster. The power of this fish never ceases to amaze me. And in this case, I was quite stressed because I knew it was a crazy long shot and I wasn't sure if the shaft went all the way through. There was a moment of tension when the float stopped running. Patrice started pulling quickly as there was no tension on the float line. This could be because of the swimming bladder popping out, but it could also mean the fish was not there anymore. I kept looking down the abyss when suddenly I looked to my right and there it was. While we hunt fish to eat, there is way more to this sport than just the harvesting side of it. There's something quite primitive that reconnects us to nature in a very unique way. Fish like this represent hundreds, if not thousands of hours spent in the blue, trying to figure out all the little things that lead us to these moments. But the most important lesson of them all, and one you can apply in life in general, is the importance of teamwork. Without it, we would have not landed this fish. And sharing this moment with close friends is also what makes this so special.
Okay, Patrice, tell me. I'm dying to know the story. I could see you, but I didn't know exactly what happened.
So Eric shot this little doggy, and there was fighting like hell, and you were like fighting to hard this fish. And as the small doggy stabilized, I went down. The water is super murky. Couldn't see much, but I passed the small doggy. And as I look on the left, there is this shadow, big shadow, and I was like, wow, this seems big, you know? So I start going this direction and I see this monster doggy there. It was super chilly, but I did like 3 or 4 like strokes to get there. It was still a long shot, but a perfect head shot. The fish was dead on the.
Fantastic. How beautiful
No need of a second shot.
How beautiful was that?
So let's go back.
We still have a bit of time.
I'm gonna delay my call.
Even though the sky cleared up, we had one very short last drift before heading back. But you simply never know what you'll find. Out of the dark, the shape of the most epic fish of the blue showed up. The sight of this fish was the perfect way to end this long day. We got back to shore well after dark. And as promised, we took only what we needed for dinner. And the fish was taken back to the village chief, who gave us the blessing to dive in their waters, and where we would go back to one last time. We woke up to a lower tide, which made us adjust the plan.
We're gonna have to walk across the beach, then some reef, and eventually get to the boat there.
We got on a local boat that somehow manages to float in like 1 foot of water. We said good morning to our lovely chefs and went for what would be a very, very short dive. But like we learned the day before, it's always worth it, even if it's just that one last minute drift. We had the image of that incredible fish in our minds, and we were happy to pass on a couple decent fish, hoping for that blue shadow to come up again. And we actually saw another marlin, but he stayed quite far. So even though we did not pull the trigger on this last day, that didn't stop us from enjoying the time spent in the water and dreaming of all the epic encounters that are yet to come. Some could consider this an unsuccessful trip, especially when we were out there at Latham. But those tough days only made us appreciate even more the one capture that represents all the effort we put on these trips. Something that can be seen as a shallow experience, just looking for a photo with a big fish, actually represents a lot more. The endless hours floating in the blue, the gear failures, the heartbreaks, the strategy adjustments, and all the decisions that got us to this point. But especially the constant humbling lessons that truly show us how limited our knowledge of the ocean is. And maybe that says something about life in general.